I remember that Friday morning like it was yesterday. The market was a sea of shoppers, carts colliding in the crowded aisles. I was darting between shelves, my eyes glued to my shopping list. My mind was racing, consumed by the upcoming presentation at work. Every second counted. I couldn't afford any distractions. This project could be my ticket to a promotion, and I was determined to impress the board with my ideas. As I approached the fruit section, I noticed an older woman with vibrant red hair and sparkling blue eyes. She was reaching for a box of strawberries on the top shelf, just beyond her grasp. Her gentle voice caught my attention as she asked for help, her eyes filled with a kind plea. I hesitated for a moment, torn between my rushed schedule and her request. But my ambition won out, and I coldly brushed her off, saying I was in a hurry. My voice sounded distant and unsympathetic, even to my own ears. I told myself I couldn't spare time for such things, work was my top priority. Without waiting for a response, I walked away, leaving her behind.
Rebecca sighed, her eyes scanning the bustling market for a friendly face. In this day and age, everyone seemed to be in such a rush. It saddened her to see how kindness had become such a rare commodity. Is it really too much to ask for a little help, she thought to herself, feeling the weight of loneliness in a crowd. With determination born from years of self-reliance, Rebecca stretched once more, her fingers finally grasping the edge of the strawberry box. As she brought it down, a twinge of pain shot through her back, a reminder of her age she'd rather forget. Well, at least I got what I came for, she mused, a bittersweet smile playing on her lips. Her thoughts drifted to the young woman who had brushed her off so quickly. I hope she learns to slow down and find some compassion in her life, Rebecca wished, not out of bitterness, but genuine concern. Little did either of them know, their paths were destined to cross again, in a way that would change both their lives forever.
The next morning, I found myself immersed in work, my desk a sea of papers, graphics, and notes. I was determined to find the perfect approach for this project. Caleb, whom I considered my rival at work, might be smart, but I was more determined. I couldn't let him win. Every detail, from design to execution, had to be flawless. This was my chance to prove my worth to the board. I could feel Caleb's calculating gaze from the next desk over. He was always so focused, so obsessed with work, just like me. Little did I know, he had already devised a plan to outdo my proposal. The tension in the air was palpable, our rivalry was evident to everyone. I thought to myself, he thinks he can beat me, but I'll prove him wrong. Every presentation was a battle, and I was determined to win. Failure wasn't an option. My concentration had to be perfect, my resolve unshakable. Success was within reach, and I wouldn't let anyone stand in my way. As I was working, Derek, my boss, passed by my desk. He noticed how much effort I was putting into the project. He gently reminded me to take care of myself, saying that good performance comes from being well rested and focused. He warned me not to push myself too hard, emphasizing the importance of balance for sustainable success. His voice was calm, but I could hear the genuine concern. I nodded at Derek, but his words didn't really sink in. I thanked him but insisted that now was the time to give it my all. This was my chance to prove myself, I argued. I couldn't let anything get in my way. I was willing to make any sacrifice necessary to secure that promotion. 2 days later, the office was buzzing with news of an important corporate merger. Our company was set to merge with an affiliated company. I entered the conference room, joining others who were eagerly awaiting the arrival of the representatives from the other company. I was nervous but trying to keep my cool. This merger could bring new opportunities for all of us, I thought. I needed to showcase my abilities and stand out. This was my chance to shine and secure my position in the company. The moment the door opened, I was stunned. The older woman I had ignored at the market walked in, dressed in a suit and carrying a briefcase. Rebecca, as she introduced herself, walked with confidence and greeted everyone with a gentle smile. She announced that she was the owner of the affiliated company and expressed her excitement about discussing the terms of the merger. My heart was racing, and I was overwhelmed with a mix of surprise and embarrassment. How could I have ignored this woman? She was clearly an important figure. This could complicate everything. How could I salvage this situation? It felt like a nightmare. My colleague and close friend, Carly, who was sitting next to me, noticed my shocked expression. She whispered, asking if I was okay, saying I looked like I'd seen a ghost. She wanted to know who this woman was. I tried to compose myself, but the embarrassment was overwhelming. I confided in Carly, explaining that this was the older woman I had ignored at the market. I admitted that I had no idea she was such an important person and worried that this could jeopardize my position. My voice was barely a whisper, trembling with internal turmoil. Carly looked at me with sympathy, her eyes filled with understanding and concern. Carly's words were like a lifeline in my storm of anxiety. She reminded me that everyone makes mistakes, and what mattered now was how I handled the situation. Her voice was full of encouragement, trying to calm the tempest in my mind. As we left the conference room, I felt like I was carrying the weight of the world on my shoulders. Cold sweat trickled down my back, and when I turned to Carly, my face must have been a mask of anguish. I confided in her, my voice barely above a whisper, that I was certain Rebecca hated me. The thought of how she must view my actions at the market was overwhelming. I felt like nothing I could do from this point on would ever make a difference in her eyes. Each word felt like a dagger, my despair evident in every syllable. Carly gently placed her hand on my shoulder, trying to comfort me. Her voice was soft but filled with encouraging strength as she told me I was overthinking things. She assured me that Rebecca seemed fair and understanding. Carly emphasized that everyone makes mistakes, and what's important is how we deal with them going forward. She urged me to be honest, show a willingness to learn and cooperate. Her final words struck a chord. She warned me not to let fear paralyze me. As we were talking, Caleb, who was nearby, overheard our conversation and couldn't resist stirring up more trouble. His words were cruel and full of malice as he told me I was being overdramatic. He suggested that someone like Rebecca wouldn't even remember people who didn't pay attention to her. His eyes gleamed with a sadistic satisfaction that made my skin crawl. Throughout the day, I watched as Caleb deliberately cozied up to Rebecca, pretending to be her close friend. He was constantly by her side, exchanging smiles and pleasant words. I overheard him praising Rebecca, calling her vision for the merger amazing and expressing his desire to learn from her. Caleb seized every opportunity to be near Rebecca, always speaking in a polite, flattering tone. As I saw Caleb and Rebecca growing closer, my fear intensified. Their smiles and conversations felt like blows to my confidence. I couldn't help but think he was deliberately getting close to her, trying to bring me down. He was manipulating Rebecca to be on his side. I knew I had to do something, but what? His every move made me anxious. He was using underhanded tactics, and I felt like I was falling behind. Caleb never missed a chance to subtly disparage me. His voice sounded harmless on the surface, but his words were laced with poison. I overheard him telling Rebecca that while I was very decisive, I could sometimes come across as cold. He quickly added that this was probably my way of dealing with pressure, saying everyone has their own methods. These subtle words were clearly aimed at planting doubts about me in Rebecca's mind. Rebecca, however, maintained a neutral stance. She acknowledged Caleb's words calmly, saying she understood that everyone deals with challenges in their own way. She emphasized the importance of observing and understanding before jumping to conclusions. Her voice was gentle, without a hint of criticism or praise, maintaining a balanced position. As Caleb and Rebecca's closeness became more apparent, my anxiety grew exponentially. Their smiles and conversations felt like direct hits to my self-confidence. I knew I had to act. I couldn't let Caleb maintain this advantage. Somehow, I needed to prove my worth and show that I was better than him. Derek called Carly and me to assign our tasks for the day. I felt my heart sink as he gave me basic work while assigning Carly the crucial presentation for the next board meeting. His voice was firm, leaving no room for argument. I tried to hide my disappointment, but I could feel my shoulders slump slightly. I accepted the task, taking the papers from him, but inside I was seething with frustration. Basic work? I thought to myself. I need something more challenging, something that can showcase my true value. As Derek walked away, I turned to Carly, my voice almost pleading. I begged her to switch tasks with me, explaining how desperately I needed this presentation to prove myself to Rebecca and the board. I confided in her about Caleb's attempts to undermine me, and how this was my chance to show I was better than him. My voice was filled with urgency and desperation, like a drowning person grasping for a lifeline. Carly hesitated, her face showing concern as she looked at my serious expression. She told me she thought this wasn't healthy for me, that I was putting too much pressure on myself. But she also acknowledged how important this was to me. Finally, she agreed to switch, but made me promise to take care of myself. Her voice was cautious, but ultimately gave in to my determination. With the new assignment in hand, I felt a surge of energy coursing through me. This was my chance, I thought. I had to make this presentation perfect. Every detail had to be flawless, every slide had to exude confidence and competence. I was determined to show everyone what I was truly capable of. I worked tirelessly, immersing myself in the preparation. The following days felt like a work marathon. I checked and rechecked my slides countless times, adjusting every graph and text to ensure clarity and impact. I was obsessed with making sure every point was easily understandable, leaving no room for questions or unresolved issues. This presentation had to be bulletproof. I spent hours rehearsing in the office, determined to memorize every detail. I knew the delivery was just as important as the content. My voice had to be strong, my expressions had to convey confidence. I couldn't show any weakness. I practiced in front of the mirror repeatedly, fine-tuning even the smallest aspects of my performance. While I was engrossed in my rehearsals, Caleb never missed an opportunity to try and derail me. He would deliberately scatter papers near my desk, make sarcastic comments, or interrupt my practice with pointless questions. His voice dripped with fake sweetness as he asked if I was really prepared for such an important presentation, reminding me that everyone was expecting great things. But I refused to let him break my concentration. I couldn't let him defeat me. I had to stay calm and keep moving forward. Every obstacle was just a test of my resolve. I was determined to show everyone that I could handle any challenge thrown my way. My determination was unshakable as I continued to practice relentlessly. Finally, the day of the presentation arrived. The conference room was filled with directors, colleagues, and of course, Rebecca. My heart was pounding hard, but I managed to keep my cool as I connected my computer to the projector. This was the moment I had worked so hard for, I thought to myself. It was time to show everyone my worth, and failure simply wasn't an option. I began my presentation with confidence, my words flowing smoothly as I clearly explained each point. But Caleb, determined to bring me down, started throwing one obstacle after another in my path. He whispered to colleagues, interrupting my flow with questions, and even had the audacity to let his phone ring during my presentation. He's trying to sabotage me, I thought, but I can't let him win. For a moment, I lost my train of thought. My mind went blank, and I felt panic rising in my throat. Pull yourself together, I told myself, taking a deep breath. Don't let him distract you. Focus, Victoria. You've worked too hard for this. Despite the challenges, I managed to finish the presentation. My voice was strong and filled with determination. After I finished, there was a moment of silence that felt like an eternity. Then, the applause began, and I felt a wave of relief and pride wash over me. I did it, I thought. It wasn't perfect, but I didn't give up. I had shown everyone that I could face difficulties and keep moving forward. This was just the first of many victories to come. I glanced at Rebecca, trying to gauge her reaction, but her expression was neutral, neither approving nor disapproving. Carly, sitting next to me, smiled and gave a slight nod. She told me how amazing I was, praising me for pushing through despite all the interruptions. Her words were like a soothing balm to my frayed nerves. I felt grateful, but still a bit unsatisfied. I thanked Carly but couldn't help expressing my frustration. I felt I could have done even better without the distractions. The interruptions had thrown me off, and I was angry at myself for letting Caleb affect me so much. Carly gently placed her hand on my shoulder, comforting me. She repeated how impressive I had been, emphasizing that overcoming those obstacles truly showed my capabilities. Her words were filled with pride and support, helping to ease the tension I felt. Before I could respond, Rebecca called out to me from across the room. She wanted to speak with me and asked me to come over. Her voice was calm but had a serious tone that made my heart race and my whole body tense up. I felt my breath becoming shallower, unsure of what to expect from this conversation. I turned to Carly, my eyes wide with anxiety. My voice trembled as I confessed how nervous I was, wondering what if Rebecca was angry with me, what if I failed again. I felt like I was on the verge of falling apart, my hands shaking slightly. Carly smiled, trying to instill some calm and confidence in me. She assured me that I was incredibly talented and that Rebecca was fair and understanding. She encouraged me to believe in myself and show Rebecca my true self, reminding me of my strength and determination to overcome any obstacle. I took a deep breath, trying to calm my nerves. I agreed with Carly, knowing I had to face this. I thanked her for her support and promised to do my best. With one last encouraging look from Carly, I started walking towards Rebecca. Each step felt heavy with anxiety. When I reached Rebecca, I could feel my heart racing, but I managed to force a smile. I immediately started apologizing for the presentation, admitting it wasn't perfect and that I got flustered by the interruptions. I promised to do better and not repeat the same mistakes. Rebecca looked at me with an enigmatic smile. To my shock, she revealed that she had asked Caleb to deliberately interrupt me. She wanted to see how I would react under pressure. She expressed her admiration for how I didn't shift blame and persevered, saying it showed my character and strength. Her confession sent my mind reeling. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I asked her why she had Caleb do this, and if he had said anything about me. I was completely confused, realizing this had all been a test. Rebecca sighed and invited me to sit down. She told me that Caleb had said some terrible things about me, claiming I was cold and difficult to work with. But she didn't believe him. She explained that she judges people based on her own experiences and observations, and she had seen my determination and strength. I felt a bit relieved, but I still had an important question. I brought up the incident at the market, expressing how sorry I was for being so rude and not helping her. I admitted it had been weighing on my mind and that it was a big mistake. Rebecca smiled and shook her head. She told me not to worry about it, saying everyone has moments of distraction. She assured me it was in the past and she didn't hold a grudge. What mattered now, she said, was what we did going forward. Then she surprised me by saying she needed my help with something important, something only someone with my determination could handle. I felt a mix of curiosity and nervousness. I asked her what she needed help with, assuring her I'd do whatever I could to make up for my rudeness. My voice was filled with new determination, and I could feel curiosity sparkling in my eyes. Rebecca looked around to make sure no one was listening. Then she dropped a bombshell. Derek was trying to sabotage the merger. She said he had malicious intentions and was plotting against us. She needed someone she could trust to expose him, someone with determination who had access to what was happening internally. I was shocked and immediately wanted to defend Derek. I couldn't believe it was possible. He had always been fair and honest with me. I couldn't imagine him being involved in something like this. He always seemed to have everyone's best interests at heart. I thought there must be some misunderstanding. Rebecca maintained her composure, but I could see the seriousness in her eyes. She told me she understood my feelings, acknowledging how difficult it was to believe such things about someone I respected. But she insisted she had evidence, and that Caleb was involved too. They were conspiring together, she said. She stressed that she really needed my help, that she couldn't uncover the truth alone. I fell silent for a moment, trying to process this information. My mind was a whirlwind of conflicting thoughts and emotions. I admitted that if Caleb was involved, it was indeed serious. But I still found it hard to believe Derek could be plotting something so underhanded. I asked Rebecca if she was absolutely certain, expressing my reluctance to get involved unless I was completely sure. My face must have been an open book, clearly showing my confusion and anxiety. Rebecca nodded, understanding my hesitation. She handed me an envelope, explaining that it contained the evidence she had gathered so far. It wasn't much, she said, but enough to raise suspicions. She wanted me to find out what these two were up to. She stressed that this had to remain our secret, especially from Carly. She didn't want to put her in danger. As I took the envelope, I felt the weight of responsibility settling on my shoulders. I agreed to do my best, promising to try to uncover the truth while keeping it confidential. I took a deep breath, feeling the gravity of my decision as I tried to steady my nerves. That evening, I stayed late at the office, determined to find some clues in Derek's office. I reminded myself to be cautious, knowing that if he really was involved, I couldn't afford to be suspected. This might be my only chance to find crucial evidence. I waited patiently for everyone to leave, watching as Derek finally exited the building. Quietly, I made my way towards his office. But as I approached the door, I saw Caleb lurking in the hallway like some kind of guard dog. My heart sank. Why was he there? I needed to think fast. I couldn't afford to be suspected, it would ruin the plan and disappoint Rebecca all over again. Forcing a smile, I approached Caleb. I asked him why he was there so late, if he needed anything. I told him I was just finishing up some work before heading home, mentioning how tired I was and asking if he felt the same. I could feel my heart racing, but I tried to keep my voice calm and natural. Caleb looked suspicious, but he maintained his smile. He said he was just checking on a few things, commenting on how work never ends. Then he asked why I was still there, wondering if I hadn't finished my work yet. Thinking quickly, I came up with an excuse. I told him I was almost done, just needed to grab some documents from my locker. I added that I'd lost track of time from working so much. Then I excused myself, bidding him good night. I left the office empty-handed, feeling Caleb's eyes on my back as I walked away. The frustration I felt was almost crushing. I hadn't gained anything today. I knew I needed to think of another way to uncover what Derek and Caleb were planning. At least I hadn't aroused suspicion. I told myself I needed to be smarter next time. My mind was in turmoil as I drove home, continually thinking about my next steps. When I got home, I collapsed onto the sofa, utterly exhausted. Rebecca had trusted me to uncover the truth, but how was I supposed to do that? If Derek really was involved, what was I going to do? Everything felt so complex and dangerous. My thoughts were a swirling vortex as I replayed the day's events over and over in my mind. Finally, exhaustion overtook me, and I fell asleep on the sofa still in my work clothes. As I drifted off, I thought to myself, tomorrow's a new day. I've got to be stronger. I was determined to find a way to help Rebecca. Failure wasn't an option. I had to uncover the truth. My thoughts gradually faded as sleep claimed me. The next morning, I woke up with a mix of anxiety and determination churning in my gut. As I got ready for work, Rebecca's words from our conversation kept swirling in my head like a broken record. I wondered how I should approach Rebecca today. How could I explain my actions and show her I was serious about this? What if I couldn't find anything? Would she be disappointed in me? I told myself to calm down and focus on the investigation. I had to prove my worth. As I prepared to face the day, I could feel the tension radiating through my entire body. When I arrived at the office, I was surprised by Rebecca's calm demeanor. She greeted me warmly, asking if I had rested well. She told me not to worry so much and to proceed with the investigation as usual. She emphasized the importance of being careful and patient. Her voice was steady and encouraging, which helped ease my anxiety a bit. Rebecca handed me a stack of documents, explaining that they were related to the merger. She said we needed to analyze them together to look for signs of interference or problems. She acknowledged that the information was vast, but expressed confidence that we could handle it. Her self-assured smile was reassuring. As we examined the documents, my curiosity got the better of me. I couldn't help but ask Rebecca why she had chosen me for this task. I pointed out that there were surely more experienced employees she could have picked. Rebecca hesitated for a moment, seeming to struggle with her answer. Then she explained that Caleb was clearly on Derek's side and didn't have a good relationship with me. She needed someone like me, someone motivated and with access to important information, to help bring him down. She said I had proven my determination and resilience in the face of difficulties.
While Rebecca and Victoria were engrossed in the documents, Derek and Caleb were having a detailed discussion about their plan in a separate room nearby. Caleb warned Derek that they needed to proceed with caution, as Rebecca seemed to be growing suspicious. He emphasized that their actions must be discreet and precise. Derek, seated at his desk, fixed Caleb with a stern gaze. He reminded Caleb of the high stakes involved in their plan. Derek stressed the need to sabotage the merger and ensure their company came out on top. He insisted that Rebecca must not catch wind of their scheme. Derek revealed that they had already diverted funds and were prepared to funnel the most profitable contracts to their company. He boasted that if their plan succeeded, Rebecca's company would be forced to abandon the merger, leaving them in control of everything. Caleb nodded, but his expression betrayed his anxiety. He assured Derek that he understood and would continue to keep Victoria off track. Caleb acknowledged Victoria's intelligence and stressed the importance of not arousing her suspicions. However, he couldn't help but express his doubts about the plan's success. Caleb voiced his concern about potentially losing out by cooperating with Derek. Derek's response was a cold smile, his confident demeanor unwavering. He told Caleb not to worry, asserting that everything was proceeding according to plan. Derek guaranteed that their company would be the sole winner. He assured Caleb that Rebecca would be left with no evidence. Derek concluded by stating that as long as Caleb followed his instructions, there would be no problems.
Back in the conference room, I continued analyzing the documents with Rebecca. The weight of responsibility was starting to bear down on me like a heavy cloak. I couldn't help but feel overwhelmed by the sheer volume of information before us. It was like trying to find a needle in a haystack, and I voiced my concerns to Rebecca. She smiled encouragingly, reminding me that patience and careful scrutiny would lead us to what we needed. Her words were like a balm to my frayed nerves, steadying my resolve. As we pored over the papers, hours ticking by like minutes, I suddenly stumbled upon something that made my heart race. With trembling hands, I pointed out a discrepancy in the contract numbers to Rebecca. My mind was whirling with possibilities. Could this be evidence of embezzlement? Or was Derek trying to limit Rebecca's stake in the company, weakening her position? Rebecca's face grew serious as she carefully examined the document I'd found. She agreed that this could be a crucial lead, potentially the key to exposing Derek's plans. Her words of encouragement, telling me we were on the right track, sent a surge of hope through me. For the first time since this all began, I felt like we were making real progress. It was as if a fog had lifted, revealing a clear path forward. My determination solidified, crystallizing into a sharp focus. I knew we couldn't let Derek slip through our fingers now. With this discovery, my sense of purpose and responsibility to our mission grew stronger than ever. It was like a fire had been lit within me, driving me to dig deeper, to uncover more evidence. I was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, armed with this new lead and the unwavering support of Rebecca.
Meanwhile, in Derek's office, the conversation between him and Caleb continued. Derek stressed the need to be prepared for every move. He emphasized that there could be no mistakes. The merger, he insisted, must be carefully sabotaged without leaving any traces. Caleb nodded in agreement, his expression tense. He assured Derek that he would see this through to the end. However, he couldn't help but express his concern about potentially leaving clues behind. Caleb worried that if Rebecca found anything, they would be in serious trouble. He suggested that they needed to proceed even more cautiously from now on. Derek looked Caleb straight in the eye, his voice calm and calculated. He reminded Caleb, not for the first time, that there was no need to worry. Everything, he assured, was going according to plan. Derek revealed that he was keeping tabs on Victoria and Rebecca's movements. He confidently stated that the women would never catch on to their scheme.
As we reviewed the documents again in the conference room, I couldn't help but voice my disbelief to Rebecca. The reality of Derek's actions was finally sinking in, like a stone dropping into a still pond. I told her how seeing the altered data and meaningless clauses made me anxious. It was as if a fog was lifting, and I was beginning to understand what she had been saying all along. The truth was staring me in the face. Derek really was trying to make Rebecca's company a mere subsidiary of his own. Rebecca's bitter smile and quiet response sent a chill down my spine. She admitted that she, too, had initially found it hard to believe. But the evidence was there, undeniable and damning. She stressed the urgency of taking action and expressed her faith in my commitment to the investigation. Her words weighed heavily on me, and I took a deep breath, feeling the full weight of the responsibility on my shoulders. I promised Rebecca I would give it my all. This wasn't something we could ignore. We had to protect our company and ensure the merger was conducted fairly. I vowed to keep searching for more evidence, my determination growing with each passing moment. Suddenly, an idea struck me like a bolt of lightning. I turned to Rebecca, my eyes blazing with newfound resolve. I suggested we alter the contract, removing the clauses that favored Derek's company. This way, I explained, her company wouldn't be at a disadvantage, and both parties would be on equal footing. It seemed like the best way to ensure a fair outcome in the end. Rebecca pondered for a moment, her expression serious. She agreed it might work if we made the changes carefully and discreetly. Derek, she reminded me, was cunning, but if we played our cards right, he wouldn't notice until it was too late. Together, we meticulously analyzed the contract, adjusting the terms with surgical precision. As Rebecca modified one particular clause, she emphasized the need for subtlety. We had to be as sly as foxes to outmaneuver Derek. Finally, the day of the signing ceremony arrived. The conference room was prepared for the event, filled with executives and representatives from both companies. I was a bundle of nerves, but my resolve was unshakable. This was our D-Day, and failure simply wasn't an option. Carly was there too, and I could feel her concerned gaze on me. She commented on how busy I'd been lately, wondering what was going on. I tried to ease her worry with a smile, explaining that I was working with Rebecca on some merger-related issues. I told her Rebecca had chosen me to help with part of it, and despite the pressure, I was actually enjoying being involved in such important decisions. Carly's observation about Rebecca being like a mother figure to me caught me off guard. She mentioned how nice it was to see us working together so well now, especially given our rocky start. I couldn't help but chuckle at her insight, feeling some of the tension dissipate. I agreed, telling her what a wonderful mentor Rebecca had become. There was so much I was learning from her, and still so much more to learn. I promised to share more details about the company's inner workings when I could. As the ceremony progressed, the contract was solemnly signed. The documents were then sent to the registry office for final approval. Rebecca explained that all we could do now was wait for confirmation. If everything went smoothly, the merger would be officially complete. After what felt like an eternity, we received notification that the merger had been officially approved. The relief on Rebecca's face was palpable, and I felt a wave of accomplishment wash over me.
Derek, however, maintained his usual composure, ready to confront Rebecca with his trump card in the contract. He approached Rebecca with a satisfied smile. Derek asked Rebecca if she had really read what she signed, revealing that he had made some changes to the contract. He boasted that these changes guaranteed additional benefits for his company. Derek told Rebecca that she was now at a disadvantage, but assured her not to worry. He claimed that his superior leadership skills would eventually make her content with his promotion. Rebecca remained calm and responded with a firm voice. She told Derek that he was the one who hadn't read the signed document carefully. Rebecca revealed that they had already modified the contract, removing all of Derek's advantages. She declared that his plan had failed and that it was pointless for him to speak to her in such a manner. Rebecca asserted that she wouldn't be deceived by anyone when it came to decisions about her company, especially the one she had worked so hard to build. Derek's face contorted with anger. He accused Rebecca of betraying him and threatened to completely destroy her and her company. Derek warned that she didn't yet understand who she was dealing with. He vowed to destroy everything she had built in her life and render her life itself meaningless. Derek's words were filled with hatred and threats. Suddenly, Rebecca lost consciousness and unexpectedly collapsed to the floor. Derek stood frozen, unsure of what to do. He called out Rebecca's name, but there was no response. His anger instantly turned to panic, his voice trembling. Hearing the commotion, Caleb rushed over. He anxiously asked Derek what had happened and if he had done something.
I was standing nearby with Carly when we saw Rebecca collapse. We rushed over, following closely behind Caleb. My heart was pounding in my chest as I approached the scene. When I saw Rebecca lying motionless on the floor, a wave of anger washed over me. I turned to Derek, my voice shaking with rage, and demanded to know if he was responsible for this. Derek raised his hands defensively, denying any involvement. He swore he hadn't done anything, insisting that she had simply collapsed. He reminded me that while he and Rebecca were at odds, it was strictly business. His words rang hollow in my ears as I struggled to believe him. Derek suggested that if we wanted to help Rebecca, we should call an ambulance instead of accusing him. Carly and I sprang into action, calling for emergency services. Within minutes, the ambulance arrived, and Rebecca was rushed to the hospital. Carly and I followed in my car, the silence between us heavy with worry. I couldn't shake the feeling of dread that had settled in the pit of my stomach. As we sat in the hospital waiting room, I felt completely lost. I bowed my head, trying to make sense of the day's events. Carly sat beside me, holding my hand tightly, offering what comfort she could. She assured me that Rebecca was strong and would pull through. I took a deep breath, fighting back tears. I confided in Carly how worried I was, how unreal everything felt. The thought that Derek might be involved in this terrified me. When we were finally allowed into Rebecca's room, each step down the hospital corridor felt like an eternity. The moment I saw her, I rushed to her side, my face etched with concern. I pleaded with her to tell me what had happened, if Derek was responsible. Rebecca weakly raised her hand to calm me. She explained that this wasn't Derek's doing, but rather the result of an illness she'd been hiding for a long time. The shock of her revelation left Carly and me speechless. Rebecca went on to explain that she had terminal cancer and didn't have much time left. I felt my world crumbling around me. How could this be happening? Rebecca had always seemed so strong, so invincible. When she revealed her wig, showing us the effects of her chemotherapy, I couldn't hold back my tears any longer. The reality of her condition hit me like a ton of bricks. I desperately asked her what we would do without her, how we could possibly handle Derek and the company. Rebecca's sad smile as she looked at me broke my heart. She told me that she had entrusted all her shares to me during the merger. The weight of her words, the responsibility she was placing on my shoulders, felt overwhelming. I shook my head in disbelief, feeling utterly unworthy of her trust. How could I possibly live up to her expectations? Rebecca squeezed my hand tightly, her eyes filled with a mixture of sadness and hope. She shared with me the hardships she'd faced, losing her husband and daughter. Her words about seeing something of her daughter in me when we first met at the market touched me deeply. I realized then the depth of the connection we'd formed, and the magnitude of the task she was entrusting to me. I thought Caleb might be the reason Rebecca believed I chose you. But that wasn't the whole truth. The time had come for you to take on this responsibility. As Rebecca said these words, she breathed her last. I couldn't hold back my tears as I clung to Carly. She tried her best to comfort me in that moment of overwhelming grief. Rebecca trusted you, Victoria. Now is the time for you to be strong for her. The next day, the office remained closed. Everyone mourned Rebecca's death, and the company decided to shut down for the rest of the week. Even as I wallowed in sorrow, I felt a new sense of responsibility settling upon my shoulders. When Monday came, all the legal matters were finalized. I dressed elegantly, preparing myself for the new challenges ahead. This is a new beginning, I thought. I needed to honor Rebecca's memory and protect her legacy. I couldn't let Derek dismantle what she had built. As I arrived at the office, all eyes turned toward me. I was then a co-owner, holding 50% of the company, and I had to demonstrate my leadership from day one. Derek waited for me in the conference room, ready to discuss the company's future. Victoria, we need to talk about the next steps. You are a co-owner now. You will have to make important decisions, he said with an authoritative tone. I responded without hesitation. Derek, I want to make one thing clear. I will protect all of Rebecca's interests. I won't let anything she built be destroyed. Derek gave me a cold smile, his eyes narrowing. Do you really think you can take control so easily? Rebecca may have trusted you, but that doesn't mean you know how to run a company of this size. Especially not after such a significant merger. Even experienced executives find it challenging. I maintained my composure, my voice steady as I replied. I may not have your experience, Derek, but I possess something you don't. That's Rebecca's trust and my determination to protect her legacy. I'll learn everything necessary to ensure this company thrives. He slammed his hand on the desk, his frustration evident. Victoria, you're naive. You have no grasp of the realities of business. I've accumulated years of experience. Do you think you can come in here and change everything? I stood my ground, unwavering. I understand there's much to learn. But I won't allow you to damage this company with your underhanded tactics. I will fight for everything Rebecca believed in. And we'll see if your so-called experience truly holds any value. Derek looked at me with contempt. You're making a huge mistake, Victoria. This path won't lead to a good outcome for you. I'm warning you. I stood tall, facing him head-on. The mistake was underestimating Rebecca's and my resolve. I will prove you wrong. And I will show that integrity and justice can prevail in the business world. This initial clash marked the dawn of a new era for the company. I understood that this journey would be tough, but I was ready to face every challenge that lay ahead. I vowed to honor Rebecca's memory and protect her legacy. With Carly's support and Rebecca's words echoing in my heart, I prepared to lead the company with courage and determination. I knew my battle with Derek would escalate, but I was fully committed to safeguarding Rebecca's interests and securing the future of the company.
At the end of the day, Caleb was called into Derek's office. As he entered, the tension in the air tightened his stomach. Derek sat behind his desk, wearing a cold, calculating expression. Caleb, we need to talk, Derek said in a chilling tone. Caleb approached cautiously and took a seat in front of the desk. What's the rush, Derek? I'm busy, he replied. Derek leaned forward, locking eyes with Caleb. Since Victoria took charge, things have gotten increasingly complicated. We need to take more drastic measures to secure control of the company. Caleb felt a lump form in his throat and swallowed hard. What exactly do you mean by drastic measures? Derek outlined a plan involving financial maneuvers and sabotage to undermine Victoria and seize full control of the company. With every word Derek uttered, Caleb's anxiety grew. That's going too far, Derek. I can't do that. Derek suddenly stood up, slamming his hand on the desk. You have no choice, Caleb. If you don't follow my orders, I will consider it treason. You know what happens to traitors. Your job, your career, everything will be over. You'll end up in the same hole as Victoria. Caleb felt a wave of panic but tried to stay calm. I need time to think, he said. With his heart racing, he left the office. As he walked down the hallway, Caleb desperately tried to make sense of the situation. How did it come to this? Derek is going way too far. I need help. But given what I've done, who would believe me? Feeling lost, Caleb searched for Victoria.
As I sat in the office, I could see the look of despair wash over Caleb's face the moment he stepped in. Victoria, I need to talk to you. It's urgent, he said, his voice trembling. I was taken aback by the tone in his voice. What's going on, Caleb? Please, calm down and explain. He shut the door behind him, and I felt the tension in the air thickening around us as he began to speak. Derek is planning something terrible. He's trying to destroy everything and take control of the company. but I can't go along with it. I know I've made mistakes, but this is too much. I don't know what to do." As tears began to roll down his cheeks, he fell to his knees, his desperation palpable. "I've done awful things to you, Victoria. I've been a terrible person. Now I'm clinging to my job and my dignity. Please, forgive me. I know I don't deserve it, but I can't keep living like this. I want to change." I felt a mix of surprise and compassion for him, and I placed a comforting hand on his shoulder. "You don't have to be so hard on yourself, Caleb. We all make mistakes. What matters is that we learn and grow from them. You have it in you to be a better person. Everyone has that potential. That's something a very important person taught me." Caleb looked up at me, tears still streaming down his face, and with a heart full of gratitude, he said, "I know. You were forgiven by Rebecca after you made mistakes, right? I want that same chance. I want to be a good professional and prove that I can do the right thing." I smiled softly at him, feeling a sense of warmth. "I forgive you, Caleb. Let's work together to do what's right. I'm excited to see you grow." With the help of Carly, we started gathering evidence against Derek. We meticulously documented every illegal activity he was involved in without compromising. "We need to make sure we record every detail," Carly said, focused as she analyzed the paperwork. I nodded, feeling a surge of determination. "We have to do this perfectly. We can't show any weakness." As the long nights dragged on, and the days became increasingly grueling, our shared purpose brought us closer together. Caleb was driven by a powerful desire for redemption, and he put everything he had into finding new evidence to stand against Derek. "This is for Rebecca and everything she believed in," he thought as he sifted through financial records. Carly showcased her analytical skills, uncovering evidence that supported our case against Derek, including contracts and records of his misconduct. "He never thought we'd uncover this. He underestimated our determination," Carly said, holding up documents that proved his misappropriation of funds. "Finally, we had all the evidence we needed, and we took it to the police." Derek was arrested and charged with several crimes, including fraud and obstruction. Relief spread throughout the company when the news of Derek's arrest circulated quickly. During the trial, Derek faced a lengthy sentence for his crimes, including embezzlement and attempted extortion. His hateful glare didn't faze me. I had finally found my strength and purpose amidst the chaos. As I stood there, I thought it was futile for him to try and bring me down. Justice had prevailed. Watching Derek being led away, I felt a mixture of relief and a sense of closure wash over me. With Derek imprisoned, the company began to stabilize, and I found myself at the helm, leading a business that had finally become cohesive. I vowed to protect Rebecca's legacy, to guide the company with integrity and justice. I promoted Carly to be my right hand, recognizing her unwavering support. "Carly, you have always been there for me. This success is thanks to you," I told her, my heart swelling with gratitude. Her smile was radiant, a reflection of our hard work. "Thank you, Victoria. It's an honor to work alongside you. Let's make this company an even more wonderful place," she replied, enthusiasm shining in her eyes. Caleb also found a new purpose. He worked tirelessly, walking the path of redemption, striving to become a better and more ethical person. "Thank you for giving me a second chance, Victoria. I promise I won't let you down," he said, sincerity evident in his voice. I nodded, pride swelling within me. "I'm proud of you, Caleb. Everyone deserves a second chance. Let's build a bright future together," I assured him, my heart filled with hope. Reflecting on everything that had transpired, I felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. As Derek sat in prison contemplating his actions, I honored Rebecca's memory, leading the company with strength and integrity. Under my leadership, the company flourished, and the future looked bright. I gazed into the horizon, feeling a blend of nostalgia and hope. Rebecca, I wonder if you are watching us from somewhere. I will carry on your legacy and strive to make this world a better place, I vowed silently. With that promise in my heart, I turned to Carly and Caleb, ready to face the new challenges ahead. The future is brimming with infinite possibilities.
Your support is the best encouragement for us to continue bringing you heartwarming stories almost every day. Stay tuned so you don't miss the next incredible story, which will be available soon. We deeply appreciate your support. Until next time, take care and God bless.